Job had everything a man could ever want: wealth, family, respect, and a faith that never seemed to break. But he had no idea that everything was about to change.
Job was one of the richest and most respected men in the land. He owned many animals, had a large household, and lived in peace with his family. Job was not only wealthy, he was known for his faith. Every day, he prayed for his children and thanked God for the life he had been given. Job's life looked perfect. But far beyond what Job could see, a great test was about to begin. Then, in the heavenly realm, Job's faith was questioned. Could he still trust God if he lost everything he had?
Then the first disaster came. A messenger rushed to Job with terrible news.
"Sir, your animals are gone!"
His
Animals were gone, and his servants had been killed. And they killed all your servants.
Before Job could recover from the first message, another messenger arrived.
He brought news that was worse.
He brought news that was even worse.
Then the second messenger spoke. "A great attack took everything you had."
Job stood silently, still trying to understand what was happening.
Then another messenger arrived. He brought news that Job's children were together when disaster struck. Job's world was falling apart. Then the final messenger arrived. He said, "Job, your sons and daughters are gone." Job fell to the ground in grief, but he still refused to turn against God. Job tore his robe and bowed to the ground. Through his tears he said, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away." But Job's suffering was not over. His wealth was gone, his children were gone, yet his faith was still being tested. Then Job was struck with painful sores from head to toe. The man who once lived in comfort was now sitting in misery. Job sat alone in the ashes. His body was hurting, his heart was broken, and he could not understand why all of this was happening. Then Job's wife looked at him and said,
"Are you still holding on to your faith?"
But Job refused to turn against God. Job answered, "Should we accept good from God and not trouble?" Even in his deepest pain, Job refused to turn against God. Then 3 of Job's friends came to see him. When they saw how much he was suffering, they were shocked, and they sat beside him in silence. For 7 days, Job's friends said nothing. They simply sat with him. But when Job finally spoke, his words revealed just how deeply he was hurting. Job finally cried out, "Why was I ever born?" He could not understand why his life had fallen apart, and his friends were about to question him. Then Job's friend Eliphaz spoke. He believed Job must have done something wrong. But Job knew the truth. He had not turned away from God. Job answered, "I have done nothing to deserve this." He wanted one thing, to understand why God had allowed his suffering.
Job's friends kept searching for a reason. But Job would not accept their accusations. He wanted answers from God himself.
Job cried out, "I want to speak directly to God." He did not know that his answer was already coming, but it would be far greater than he expected. Then everything changed. A powerful storm rose around Job, and from the storm, God finally spoke. God asked Job a question. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth?" Job realized that there were things far beyond his understanding. God showed Job that the world was far greater than he could see. Job finally understood. His suffering did not mean that God had abandoned him. Job answered God with humility. He admitted that he had spoken about things he did not fully understand, and he surrendered his questions to God. Then Job's story began to change. God had seen Job's faith through the suffering, and the darkest part of his journey was finally coming to an end. Job's health was restored, and his friends returned. The man who had once sat in ashes was standing again. God gave Job more than he had before. His wealth returned, his home was filled with joy, and Job knew that his darkest days were finally behind him. Job's family grew, and his home was filled with life again. After everything he had lost, Job was given many more years to live in peace. Job lived many years after his suffering. He saw his children and grandchildren grow, and he remembered that his story had not ended with his pain. Job's story became a reminder that suffering does not always reveal the whole picture. He lost almost everything, but his faith carried him through. Job had learned a lesson that comfort could never teach him. Faith is not only for the good days. Sometimes faith means trusting God.